Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we had Pyramids of Mars. What was that one about?
Very interesting. Starts off in 1911. You have a British archaeologist who discovers the tomb of Sutekh.
Yeah.
Basically the prototype for the Egyptian god Set, literally god of evil. Turns out that somehow or other he has been imprisoned by the Osirian gods, not on Earth, but under a pyramid, not the pyramids, plural, but under a pyramid on Mars. And so the Sutekh takes possession of the archaeologist, and then the doctor and Sarah and several other of the local people of 1911 try to figure out what's going on, only to be ultimately transported to Mars. There's a little bit of what was that silly thing where you have to solve all the puzzles to get into the city?
Yeah, that was in Death to the Daleks. That was the episode.
Oh, okay. But they get in and they manage to stop Sutekh. So
yeah,
very interesting. A lot of very old ancient Egyptian, very similar to the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb by Howard Carter and that sort of thing. So. Overall, we thought the costumes, especially, and the actors, the period actors, were very, very good. So
yeah, really good episode, and despite it, I suppose, messing with Egyptian mythology, you were completely fine with it. So
it didn't mess with it that much because Sutekh, again, to the average person learning about Egyptian history, you're learning about Ra and Osiris and Isis and Anubis and Mot and some of the others. But Sutekh is, there are so few stories about Sutekh, or Set for that matter, that go out. Unless you're studying Egyptology, most people would never have heard of that. So in watching that, it didn't bother me the way, for example, that we always complain about Yu-Gi-Oh!
That you always complain about.
Well, I complain about it because, it's horrible. I think what bothers me about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that a lot of young people who've never learned anything about Egypt's history, ancient Egypt's history, assume that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is based on that real history, and it's not.
I don't know. It's pretty... I feel like anyone watch it... Well, first off, people watch Yu-Gi-Oh! For the card game. More than anything else. Yeah. Everything with Egypt, that's the story around it. That's the backstory to the card game. But I see Yu-Gi-Oh! As more of a gateway to being interested. You see it as like, oh, this stuff is interesting. You've got this just one pharaoh. This isn't like all of Egypt. This is a thing that specifically happened during the reign of one pharaoh. This whole thing with all these monsters and this mystic thing, and we can never pinpoint when it is, so did it happen, did it not? Doesn't matter. But it's interesting. The Egyptian god cards are interesting. 2 of them are technically real gods. You have the winged dragon of Ra, and in the Japanese, it's Osiris, the sky dragon. They changed the name in the English dub, still. So I say it's a nice gateway, and it's still a lot better than something like Gods of Egypt, which is a terrible, an actual legitimately terrible movie.
Yes, it was.
So I view it as that.
I'm very disappointed here recently, within the last 5 or 6 years, the state of Oklahoma adopted what became known as the Common Core standards, and then literally turned around 2 years later and threw them out. But the school district where you attended, where I was teaching, we actually taught world history in the 6th grade, and then again in 10th grade. But now there is no world history until you get to 10th grade, so students have no concept of the Stone Age, either the Old Stone Age or the New Stone Age, or any of the ancient civilizations. Literally the foundations of civilization: Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and China. They have no knowledge of Greek or Roman except for what they may see in TV shows and movies, until they become literally sophomores in high school, and that's, in my opinion, way too late.
Yeah. So yeah, and the last sort of thing is Yu-Gi-Oh! Did end, so it's not like they're still going on. I say that they're still making a show, but it's 7 shows later at this point, and after the first show, they dropped Egypt. So they moved on, to Duel Academy and card games on motorcycles.
Card games on motorcycles. Now, I would love to have seen the pitch meeting where somebody says, hey, you know what? What if we had guys on motorcycles playing a game of cards? And, you just want that one guy in the back of the room to go, excuse me, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
See, I don't disagree. Because it is the most ridiculous thing that they've probably done. And they haven't brought it back too much since that show. But, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, well, yes, with the holograms, they're all very interesting. We'll get back to Doctor Who in a sec. With the holograms and the monsters, that's all kind of interesting. But I don't know why they put that on a motorcycle. And, yeah, I don't know. After that series, they dropped it. They briefly brought it back later, but after that, they pretty much got rid of that. And now it's all sorts of crazy things. If you want to hear more of my opinions on Yu-Gi-Oh, just ask. I will give you an opinion on every single series that they have done. So, but that's not the point. The point is we're watching Doctor Who.
Yes.
And Pyramids of Mars is also another good, some could argue, I suppose, better gateway into being interested in Egyptian history and mythology.
Yes.
So, all right. So we're watching an episode that's completely different today. This is called The Android Invasion, which that sounds the least, or the furthest you can get from ancient Egypt that I could think of. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a strange title almost because we've had 10 different robots and they're all different from each other because we've had Daleks, we've had Cybermen, we've had Autons and everything. So I don't know what is specifically an android in this show, And why are they invading?
Well, theoretically, an android is a robot that is meant to specifically look and function like a human, whereas a robot is not. It may have a somewhat humanoid form, but does not conform to the actual human, face and senses and all that sort of stuff. That's a vague definition, I would guess.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we find out? Unless you get anything else.
One last thing, and you probably may have already addressed this in something else, but we do want to note the passing of Bernard Cribbens.
Oh, yes.
Who started way back with Doctor Who in the movie with Peter Cushing.
Right, and then more recently he came in during the 10th Doctor's run, and actually I think he just within the past couple months he filmed a new thing for Doctor Who.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in the either the 60th anniversary special or something like that.
Something, whatever they're doing for the 60th, we're not sure. But.
And I just was reading this morning that would literally be his last appearance.
So it's unfortunate. He's like he honestly is the best modern Doctor Who companion. So for how little episode he's in, but yeah, very unfortunate. And he probably was the best thing about that Dalek movie. So.
Very, very good old comedic actor. I was watching some of the tributes to him, and apparently did one episode of Fawlty Towers with John Cleese. But I mean, seriously, literally, people say that's one of the best episodes in the entire run of that series.
Well, yeah. So
Godspeed.
Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and get started on this.
Whoa.
He's back.
Terry Nation in a non-Dalek story.
That can't be right. Well, if he's an android, he's not a very good android.
Has the Dalek ever landed on somebody? Like the house in Wizard of Oz?
I don't think so. Well, it's a new coat.
Ginger pop?
Can't stand the stuff, thanks all the same. So we could be any time, anywhere.
Please excuse me. Could you be very kind and tell us where we are?
Well, that's a problem.
What are the odds against finding a pocket full of coins all dated the same?
I don't understand it.
Hazmat suits with modified fencing helmets, it looks like.
No.
Those pillars and things. A lot of those are war
Anyone
memorials.
about?
Either World War
Anyone?
I or World War II. The town where I lived in France, they had one to the World War II, or World War I soldiers.
Let's try the pub.
There's always someone at the pub.
What's this pub called?
Fleur de lis, wasn't it?
What?
Fleur de lis.
Marie Celeste, more like it.
You've been there once.
Yeah.
What?
Is this the Doctor Who Rapture episode?
Yeah. If some dangerous substance leaked, it would be an emergency.
Oh, that's great. And we've been walking around in the middle of it like a couple of nanas.
It's only a speculation.
It's a nasty one.
I refuse to believe that if someone was evacuated quickly, they wouldn't take the beer with them.
What about the money?
Yeah, that actually looks really nice. A truck that opens from the side. It'd be so much easier to get stuff in there.
Well, I intend to find out anyway, and I'm sure you shouldn't be drinking so soon after breaking your neck.
There's another interesting call. Actors who can stand still and show no emotion, literally not even breathe.
Ah, an android.
The commanding officer.
Like the guards at Buckingham Palace.
Oh, this one blinks, though.
I tell you what, I won't bother you.
But don't leave the key there.
Doctor! Don't go! I'm still here!
Okay, well, that's a problem.
Leave me?
That's another problem. It's a sarcophagus of a pervert.
You're in someone else's office. It says Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart on the door.
You know the Brigadier?
I'm his unpaid scientific advisor.
Oh, yes.
I like how he specifies unpaid. Oh. Good job.
How would that have missed?
It's not like he's a small target. Granted, he is missing an eye. He may not have the best field of view.
Yeah.
What are you doing here?
Rescuing you, actually. For a change.
It's a Santaran.
It's a rhinoceros Santaran. Looked like he had a big horn coming out of his face there.
Why is Terry Nation writing a Santaran episode? I mean,
he may not be a Santaran, but he certainly...
it
From that-
looks like it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let me rephrase the question. Why is Terry Nation writing an episode without Daleks in it?
I don't know.
I don't know. But it's better than a lot of the work he's done recently. Genesis of the Daleks, I guess notwithstanding, because it's... At the very least, it's his name on the writing credit of that episode.
Yeah.
So, alright. An interesting start.
All right, so they land in the countryside, where apparently everybody has been replaced or hypnotized or somehow are under the control of whoever this alien is. And that's all we know so far.
Yes. And I was almost wondering if maybe this was like some sort of fake town, like, oh, they recreated this town in space for some reason. But they seem to be sticking with that this is Earth, and it's just that the Brigadier is in Geneva. Because I was also wondering about that. It's like, well, it must be something, because we're not going to have the Brigadier anymore. So, yeah. So I guess it's just... Boy, you also don't realize how much you miss emotion until it shows up again. Because, yeah, Crayford, I mean, he's not the greatest character we've ever seen, but he has emotion.
Yeah.
It was nice.
And I have to tell you, being an actor, to just, have a completely blank face, and showing no, even that one guy you said finally blinked, that one guard.
Yeah,
that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, so it must be very difficult to be in an M. Night Shyamalan movie. So, anywho. Yeah, I didn't realize it until towards the end that they're not wearing gloves. So it's the only human part on them is just their hands.
I thought it looked, I was checking that too. I thought it looked like a pair of tan gloves.
Maybe.
It's got too much of a nose for a Santaran.
Yeah, it might not be. Unless it's just a new Santaran.
That was the first test of the XK-5 space raid. Crayford was out in space, deep space, and then they lost him. His ship just vanished. They thought it hit an asteroid. Guy Crayford is dead, Doctor.
The plot thickens.
There's no cause for alarm, Stigrin. The station is being thoroughly searched. Section
So
by
happens
section.
he was
All
just
exits are covered.
mostly
The guards
dead.
have orders to shoot on sight.
Doctor, they have learned of the Prowl plan. He may be here to spy. It is essential for us to know.
No, Stigrin, no! They must be eliminated! They must be destroyed!
So the crawls.
I guess. I was gonna say it sounds like a Santaran name.
Hello, Mr. Benton.
Benton.
Mr. Benton, it's us.
You shall do as I say.
And here I thought that was Benton's last appearance.
If further they spread out, the better our chance of escape.
Shut it! Take a mobile troop and put a cordon on the perimeter road. Yes, sir.
Oh. And there's Harry.
Dogs.
Check your dogs.
Be funny if they were beagles.
Oy. You'd hear him 10 miles away.
Fox hunt. What kind of shoes is she wearing? They look kind of like Crocs.
Yeah.
Rottweilers.
Ugh.
That must have been disgusting.
Yeah.
Well, he's not Santaran.
I guess not. Maybe it's like a sister planet or something.
I was knocked out. When I came round, I was in some kind of operating theatre. I was frightened.
I'm sure you were. Have something to do.
She hates ginger pop.
That was easy.
It was delicious.
If only the memory print had that too.
See? They are not indestructible, Jadaki. What I create, I can also destroy.
I mean, did you need to make a new hostile one just to test its durability?
Science, Jadaki. Science will make the Kralls invincible.
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science!
It's science, yo.
Sarah came here, turned the key in the lock and cancelled the port control. TARDIS continue on its set coordinates back to Earth.
I don't understand.
Yes, you do. This isn't Earth.
Huh. It's not Earth.
Where is the real Sarah?
Ah!
Yikes!
Well, good night, kids. Enjoy your nightmares. Goodness. All right.
Gotta admit, though, it's a nice little effect.
Yeah. You almost want to go like frame by frame. Because I assume that's two shots of one of Liz Sladen falling down and the other one of the dummy with the face coming off.
Yeah.
Ugh. Alrighty.
But great effects, great editing.
Yeah.
An interesting story. Again, the makeup, the headpieces, and the way that you're kind of slouching around, again, like overweight gargoyles. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's a new species. We've never heard of the crawls before. Again, I'm sure we're going to find more about the story of the astronaut who disappeared in deep space and now suddenly has come back.
Yeah.
And again, the effects of the androids, obviously the actors who are playing, like the pub keeper and so forth, they're all very good at being very non-human. I don't want to say inhuman, but so again, so far it's fascinating. I'm interested to see where this is going.
Yeah. Terry Nation wrote this. That's incredible that somehow he made this and it's like really good. And and that sounds so terrible because Terry Nation may be one of the most classic writers on this show, but let's all face facts that not every Dalek story he's written is great. And he hasn't written them all, but still, So yeah, this is just a really interesting one. It feels like, cause that's the thing we've said recently with some of his stories, is that they feel like they're from 10 years ago. Like he hasn't, updated to 1970s Doctor Who, but this actually feels like that. So,
and it's nice to see, again, we mentioned early on in the first Tom Baker season that he's kind of like a similar type of detective like Sherlock Holmes, a little more funny, more humor. But again, in this one, he's very Sherlock Holmes, Dr. John Bell, whatever you want to call him, because he's able to see the little pieces that most people would not have seen until he points them out and goes, "Oh yeah, Sarah." He had Sarah's scarf, so why was she wearing it?
Yeah.
Why, she drank the ginger beer, and he knows that she didn't like ginger beer. She never limped.
Yeah.
And she had turned her ankle. So, you and I are seeing that, but I think the average person in 1975 watching it might not have put all that together.
Yeah. So, now it's also interesting because the whole thing with Crayford is that, did he come back? But I guess he didn't come back because this isn't Earth specifically. It's some sort of false Earth. And honestly, it's kind of strange that it's not just the Sontarans, because they just seem like Sontarans,
Yeah.
Like, they're definitely from the same breed of, alien species, because, and especially just with everything about, studying your enemy and stuff like that, and creating, like, I like that there's two of them, and, one of them is like, well, what if the Doctor does this or this or this? He's a scientist. They probably don't even fully understand what the Doctor is. They probably don't know he's a Time Lord, but still, he's a scientist. That is a threat. And immediately, Stigron is like, well, let me make a hostile android, and I will show you that we can destroy these androids. Yeah. So that's pretty interesting. The cameo, I will say, it's a bit strange having cameos by Benton and Harry in this.
Yeah.
And I thought people said that that one of the previous episodes, I guess Terror of the Zygons, was Benton's last appearance. Although I guess that's technically true if this isn't. We're just not going to see the real Benton or the real Harry in this story. Yeah. So I guess what the people in the comments said was true from a certain point of view. So.
And I'm not remembering the name of the particular dinosaur, but the crawls with the pointed rhinoceros type nose and the big flaring thing behind them. It's not a Stegosaurus, but they do have a very dinosaur quality to them.
Oh, yeah.
Are they that easily broken?
I don't know.
Resistance is inadvisable.
Yeah, we haven't been introduced, have we?
This is no time for niceties.
Now, the monument there could also be something from the Middle Ages, basically establishing the town. Mildenhall has one, but it's much smaller.
All this technology, and you couldn't get a rope. It's like that one thing from the Dalek's master plan. Whatever that was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why should a people with such skills be allowed to die?
The human race has a few skills of its own.
Yes, I know, but the crowds have promised me that no humans will be harmed, as long as they obey the ultimatum that's being prepared.
Yeah, that'll
You see,
go
the
over well.
crowds are going to take over the northern hemisphere and live in peace. I have their word for it.
You've been brainwashed.
Take most of the landmass.
Before my spaceship and trust me, I know what I'm doing.
It's never a good thing to say in fiction. Generally means you don't.
Crayford's rocket will prove an effective quarantine chamber. I shall remain inside until the virus has done its work. Then
Global
I shall
pandemic.
signal Marshal Chidaki.
Man, they're literally going to steal his intellectual property.
Nice effects.
Ooh.
Defiant to the end, Doctor. But you will soon be screaming for mercy. And there will be no one here.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Crushing me! Doctor!
Alrighty. That is part 3.
That's a fascinating story. It's like, where has Terry Nation been hiding this all these years?
Yeah, I want to believe that he, like, every time he's written a story, he's actually written another more interesting story, and they were like, okay, that's cool, but can you do Daleks? So he wrote that, and
Over and over and over again.
And under protest, he made them dull as crap. So, yeah, this is definitely a really good one. It's always Earth. You could easily make this like, well, we're going to conquer this other planet. It's just you could just have another planet, and the Doctor would be just as invested because he's the Doctor. He does that,
But, I mean, I think by this time we understood the concept of the Goldilocks planet. Now, although Doctor Who has already told us that there are inhabitants of Mars, Mars is not as hospitable as the Earth. Now, Pertwee intimated that there are people on Venus because he talked about Venusian Aikido.
Yeah.
But again, in all of the galaxies close to us, at least as far as we know, we have the ideal Goldilocks planet. Not too hot, not too cold, plenty of water, plenty of breathable air, food, water, the whole works. So, I mean, it's understandable why it has to be the Earth. But, yes, there are other Goldilocks planets in other solar systems, in other parts of this galaxy, as well as in thousands of other galaxies.
And you would also think, after the third time the Doctor has stopped an invasion like this, leave a note. Like, someone leave a note for the next species to be like, you know what, let's try a different planet. Because then if the Doctor stops you, well, whatever, at least you tried something else. So, but it's a small thing. It's not an issue with the story.
No.
At all. It's just a funny thing because, we're humans and it has to be about Earth, So, although I like the idea that they originally went for, that it was going to be that they were going to co-inhabit the Earth, and I thought that would be maybe a bit more interesting than just, we're going to wipe out all life on Earth and then take over. But I like the idea of, I guess this is sort of, though, reminiscent. You remember the movie Home? The animated movie with Jim Parsons.
Yeah.
That it was awful, but it would sort of be like that, where it's like, well, all the humans are just going to repopulate, I guess, relocate to the southern hemisphere, and the Kralls will take the northern hemisphere, and it's like, well, that's at least something, but no, it's only what Crayford thinks was going to happen.
Yeah, and apparently that's the story that they've told him. That's what he's telling the Doctor and Sarah.
Yeah.
But again, minor point. This species of virus is supposed to wipe out the humans. Because of the shared genetic material, it's probably also going to wipe out the ape population, and chances are it's going to end up wiping out all of the animal life and possibly even some of the plant life. So if they release it, it may end up backfiring on them because they'll get a very sterile, almost dead planet.
Yeah. Which at that point you could just go to Mars, which is sometimes inhabited. I don't know. I don't know the timeline of the Ice Warriors, and do they have cities on Mars that we just don't know about, or are they underground or something?
And there was that one pyramid on Mars.
Yeah, there's that too. Would they have to deal with that? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Right.
But, yeah.
The G-force cut the blood supply to what you humans laughingly call your higher centers.
I hate sarcasm, especially when I'm dying. Providing we don't burn up on re-entry and aren't suffocated on the way down, we'll probably be smashed to a pulp when we land.
Exactly. Sarah, you've put your finger on the one tiny flaw in our plan.
Our plan, it's your plan.
Well, I'm open to suggestions if you've got a better idea.
I was wondering if this one was the real Doctor, but that plan is so stupid it might just be.
We've searched the area for them, made inquiries in the village. No sign of the Doctor or Miss Smith anywhere.
Well, he'll turn up when he feels like it. I'm sure there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, the real
Let's hope
ones.
You're right.
AGS reading 400 plus 1.
10 seconds to ignition. Mark.
Do you think one of them's going to question where he got an eye patch in space?
Yeah, they should.
The rocket is coming into land.
Well, we better hurry if we're going to warn them.
It would suit our purposes better if no one was warned.
Well, that's an immediate tip-off.
What is going on here?
Oh, poor Benton.
Indeed, I have.
I'll not have my command infiltrated by aliens. Sir, they may already be announced.
They've made replicas of you and Harry now.
Oh, no, there's imposters among us.
Funded cheek, how dare they?
Stand back, Doctor. You know the resemblance is astonishing. For a moment, I thought I was seeing double.
Well, bye. Jeez!
Didn't you hear the Colonel just now? Doctor's not here. He's at large somewhere in the complex.
Oh, yes, of course, sir. I'm sorry, sir.
That's all right, Benton, but keep your wits about you. Nobody knows who's who around here.
Man, even Android Benton would fall for that.
You were hijacked by the Kralls, Crayford. Nothing went wrong with your rocket. You weren't even injured. Take off the eye patch and look for yourself.
We just happen to have a mirror here.
Yeah. He just never happened to open his eye or check. Oh, doctor fight. Whoa! Whoa! Oh, I just remembered this isn't the first time the Doctor's fought himself. Oh!
Sarah, what's going on?
It's a long story. For a start, you've got a very nasty twin.
Twin.
Again.
I used you, Crayford, as I used the android. But you are no longer of any value.
Excuse me.
Oh, whoa! Ooh.
Don't waste any tears on him, sir. He's only an android.
I was about to say. He reprogrammed it.
Okay.
Thank goodness the skin
Please
melts.
Don't ever do anything like that again.
Come on.
Well, thank goodness that's not going to spread from Stigren's corpse.
I'm going home, and I'm going by taxi.
I'll make you an offer. I'll take you home.
How can I refuse?
Could have at least bargained for a bit more. Alrighty. That's the android invasion.
Alright, the only one little kind of last thread there at the end. I guess we did kind of set up when Stigren and the other guy said you got to be very careful with it. So obviously they would be impacted by it too. But, like you said, how does it spread? Obviously it spreads by touch or by ingestion.
Yeah.
And now that it's been broken open inside that chamber, are they going to relaunch the missile back into space? Or, they don't dare destroy it on Earth because if any of the virus gets out, we're all done for.
Yeah.
So it's just one little, nasty little thread that's, if you want to pull on it, it's going to unravel the whole ending there.
Yeah.
But other than that, who would have thought that Terry Nation could have written something that was as entertaining as this was?
Yeah, that was one of the better Terry Nation stories we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
Genesis of the Daleks notwithstanding, which even then there is debate on whether or not he actually wrote that or not. So, but yeah, that was really good. The other thing too, though, is what happened to the other guy, Chidaki? Did he ever Did he stay? Maybe he stayed on the planet, and only Stigren came over.
Yeah,
I guess that could have been it.
Yes, because Chidaki was the military commander waiting for Stigren's okay to start the invasion. Because remember, Stigren said he was going to stay on the ship until humanity had died out. Then he was going to let the landing of the whatever they are. I've forgotten who they are already.
Androids.
The
Kralls.
The Kralls.
Yeah.
To allow the Kralls to land.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. And like the Sontarans, you need that last second approval to do this invasion, and that's never coming now.
Well, now, again, it seems like the idea was because they too are vulnerable to the virus. That's why he said, after 3 or 4 weeks, when all the humans have died off and the virus has died out because it has no place else to go, then it'll be safe for them to take over.
Oh, yeah.
But again, that still leaves an active virus on the ship. So, and do we need to call up Chidaki, Marshal Chidaki, or whoever he was, and say, hey, we got your number, pal. Take off. Go find another planet.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's one thing that they could have resolved in a line of so what happened to the rocket that has the virus on it? And the unit just sent it back up into space, set course for the sun to destroy it, just something like that, because the unit could easily do that, so just the rocket landed completely intact, just refuel it and launch it up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could have said something like that, but oh well.
But the fight scenes particularly, that was some really interesting stunt work there.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of flips going on. So, alrighty. So, an interesting premise too, because the whole thing with the androids almost seems, we had the Zygons, earlier in the season, which technically, that was filmed as part of season 12, and it was just the story itself was pushed back to season 13, but still in very close proximity of false, fake humans, these imposters among us, so it's interesting having that sort of story again, but again making it work. Somehow Terry Nation of all people made that story work. I want to know the story behind this episode, because how did this happen, and why hasn't this been happening for over 10 years now? Like, what was... Again, Daleks aside, what was the last good Terry Nation story?
I know he's done a couple, but I don't remember.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there's the early Dalek episodes that were all right. But even, you know, either Dalek episodes that, you know, we thought were really good, or Dalek episodes that, you know, everyone else thought were really good, but maybe we didn't care for as much. Either way, those stories aren't written by Terry Nation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this happened. There was nary a cave in this, you know? Like, there was a bit of, like, rock on the walls, you know, it was sort of just because of the design of their ship and stuff, but yeah, like, there were no caves. It was just Earth. It was outside. It was in a village. How often does Terry Nation use a village, you know? So, I don't know. It's... Unless, like, we were misreading and there was, like... It was, like, Terry, but it was, like, only one R, and it just didn't register in our brains or something. But
that nice little town, I wonder if there is actually a place called Devsham. Again, I've never heard of it, but then again, I'm only familiar with a few towns in that area. You know, Plymouth, of course, is the big one in Devon, and Tavistock, which is where our family is from. And there's another place, another town just... I want to say it's Redruth, which I may have mentioned this to you just a couple of years back. I found out that in the town of Redruth, there's actually a place called Lemin's Court. And I think this would have been like a great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandfather who was apparently a lawyer, barrister, counselor, whatever they call them there, who used to do bankruptcy cases. And I found an actual reference to him he had filed this notice that anybody who had claims against a certain person had to file them by this time, otherwise they would be forgotten. And while I was looking that up, I saw this thing that said Lemin's Court, and I went, what the heck? So actually pulled it up on Google Maps, and there's actually a very short little street in the town of Redruth that is named after us.
Interesting. You know, and one thing about lawyers in England, because I saw this on, I think it was Life on Mars or something like that. Don't they wear the robes and
yes,
they've got the wigs there?
Yes.
You know, and I get it's, you know, probably tradition of hundreds of years and stuff. Boy, I don't know how they do that. You know,
again, I'm not sure. That may be, and again, my limited knowledge of the judicial system there comes from Agatha Christie's witness for the prosecution. It may be high court, where crimes like murder and things like that, maybe in civil court it's not like that, but I don't know. Maybe we can be informed by our UK watchers.
Because I'm just trying to think of, like, if Saul Goodman had to wear the wig and everything. So it just seems like that wouldn't it wouldn't work. But hey, I mean, I guess if they pull it off, they can pull it off. Yeah. So, and I also just remembered, just because of the look of the town in this, it reminds me that in Japan, there's like one or two British towns, basically. And not like, you know, the British came here and they built a town and stuff like that. It's that the Japanese made like a tourist attraction that was modeled after old British towns like this.
Well, you probably don't remember this because you were very young, but there's a similar one out in Arizona. When the real estate developer bought the old London Bridge and had it disassembled in London and rebuilt across the Colorado River in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, they then built a small little British town on the Arizona side of the river to go along with that. And we've probably shown that picture of you outside the little red phone box. Again, there's like a pub and several other little British things there. And I've told this story before, so I'm sorry for repeating it. I found out that I am one of the few people, probably still alive, who saw London Bridge when it was in London, and I have seen it when it's now in the United States. Because I literally saw it in 1966, my last year in England, when we went down to London for a day after we got out of school. And then, of course, early 2000s would have been probably around 2004, 2005, we went down and saw it in Arizona. So
yeah. Well, add that along with watching Doctor Who in 1963 when it premiered, and now watching it nearly 60 years later on YouTube.
Yeah.
So yeah, just interesting things. Boy, I hope this British town in Arizona though has like central AC and everything.
Oh, in Arizona they will have to have central air conditioning.
Because I was gonna say, because that's the thing, isn't it? In England, like you don't. I mean, it gets hot. I know they're going through a heat wave right now.
Yeah.
But it's not generally a thing, right?
No.
Yeah. So
and again, I've mentioned before, the 3 years that we lived there, the hottest that I remember it getting, it got into the low 80s. That would have been in either 64, 65, probably 65.
Yeah, I know right now I think there's like a crazy heat wave going across Europe. I think it's getting up into the 90s.
Yeah, and some places up above 100.
Yeah, so... because, I saw like stuff like, stay indoors, don't go outside and stuff, and there's like a picture of a guy just dunking his head into a swimming pool. And, obviously, a lot of people probably are not used to that. Of course, we're sitting over here. We are a bit more used to that. Although, if you don't have AC, which, we didn't really have last week, it can... We know. That's pretty rough, so...
Didn't you film a couple of things when we were in the hotel?
Yes, I filmed an episode of Better Call Saul and Stranger Things in a hotel room.
Our air conditioning went out, so we had to stay in a hotel for 3 days.
Yeah, so... and there's actually... the other videos that I filmed that week, it was Prison Break, Cowboy Bebop, JoJo, and Full Metal Alchemist. If you watch those episodes, you will see it progressively getting hotter in my room as those episodes go on, and I'm getting more and more miserable with every passing episode. So, but it's all fixed now.
Yes.
So, it is nice, it is cool, and I still have a ceiling fan on, so we're perfectly cool.
Yes.
So,
anyway, where were we?
So but just a really good setting for the episode. And it also works too, because if maybe one thing about last episode, and this isn't really like criticism, it doesn't really take away from the episode, but when you have this whole episode about discovering this ancient Egyptian god and stuff, even if it's an alien and stuff, I kind of wish it was set in Egypt, in Cairo. It's like, oh well, we found it, and then you have all the stuff with Scarman and the brother, just have it in the city of Cairo, and then that's a very interesting location. And the fact that it's like, well, yes, we had all this, but obviously British explorer brought it back to England, and that was fine. But there are so many episodes in the countryside of England that was one thing where I was like, well, it would have been cool if we kept this in Egypt.
And we know they've already done at least a partial Egyptian set, because wasn't it in The Chase? Didn't the Time Meddler come back, the meddling monk? Because there were some things around the pyramids, because the monk was able to transform his TARDIS exterior to look like part of the pyramid or something.
Yeah.
I just remember that they did have some Egyptians there.
I think that was in the Daleks' Master Plan.
Okay.
That was after the Christmas episode of that story. So again, not a Terry Nation, half Terry Nation story that wasn't too hot. And I know we will be disagreed with on that, but still. But
that's our opinion.
Yeah, but it does work. The village setting works better here. Yeah. So, and it's also a village and the defense center, which was a good setting.
And I really liked, for example, when they were in the pub and they looked out the window, it didn't look like just a flat set in the background. It really kind of had some depth to it. So obviously the special effects and even just the the set decorators are getting much better. Again, don't know if they have a better budget or they simply learned how to do things better on a small budget.
Yeah. So
very realistic, very good.
Yeah. And then we had our main villains. We had the Kralls with Stigron and Chidaki. Yeah, that was it. Again, very interesting. It is kind of strange now at the end of this that they weren't just Sontarans, because they really felt like they would be Sontarans. Like you've got one who yes, he is a bit more militaristic, but then you have the other one who, values science and everything. He's conducting these experiments, and it just does sort of feel like, especially with the last Sontaran story we had, the Sontaran experiment, that should be, I don't know. So, and especially just because their design, they're just sort of these, shorter, hobbled over, sort of, very dark, brown almost, skin and everything. It's like they honestly feel like they were supposed to be Sontarans. The only thing I could think is if the Sontarans are owned by a particular writer, maybe, which the Daleks were for a while until eventually they got different writers to do Dalek stories. But yeah, I'm not sure. But either way, the Krulls still work. Yeah. So even a copy of the Sontarans is still good because it's a copy of a really good alien species. Yeah. So, and then we had Crayford, who never took his eye patch off and never questioned, I guess, why. Well, I guess they just made an eye patch for him, but it also seems like just a strange thing. Like, if you're going to make up this story of they pieced him back together and everything, why did you have to leave the detail of they couldn't find his left eye? I guess maybe that was just to sell the story more, like, oh well, they really tried, but it's just completely gone, and I'm never going to look at it and confirm that for myself, with my other eye. So I don't know. I don't know how they hide. It might have also been interesting. It's be a bit dark probably, but if they had like it to sell the story, basically it's like, well, they just captured him, but the story is that they couldn't find his left eye. If they had just cut his left eye out, and then that would probably sell it even more. So even if he checks, then
that could all be just part of the brainwashing, is that he never looked because his brain was programmed not to do that.
That's true. So again, minor nitpick. It doesn't really affect the story. So you notice how often we cover our bases on that too. So again, we're trying to get ahead of comments. So anywho, but yeah, then we had our android versions of Benton and Harry. Again, I thought Terror of the Zygons was the last we were going to see of Benton and Harry, but nope, they're back, and we actually saw the real versions of them too. So I don't know, maybe this is the last one. I don't know. Because I was kind of figuring that, well, without them and without the Brigadier, we'd probably just be like, all right, well, we're gonna move away from UNIT. But no, we still stuck with them in this one. So, but it was still good. It was good to see them again, and it's one of those things. I know people gave the explanation of why they created the character of Harry, because they thought they were going to have a much older Doctor. So when they had Tom Baker, they realized, well, we don't really need Harry anymore, and so they just wrote him off. Honestly, I don't really see the need to write him off. Like, I don't, like, even if Tom Baker is younger, he's more physical, he's more active than what they thought they were going to have. I don't see any reason why you couldn't have Harry. Honestly, you could say the same thing about Patrick Troughton. Like, he obviously probably a bit older than Tom Baker, but he was definitely younger and more active than William Hartnell was, and he still had Jamie pretty much the entire time. Yeah. So you could have kept Harry, but one or two cameos still works. So that was good, and honestly, I feel like they got a bit more here than the fake Harry that they had in the Zygon episode. Yeah. So, but still, good roles for them, to play something different. They set up the whole thing of, what if the Doctor turns the androids on us? And then they just didn't do anything with that. Like, it was good. It showed how smart the Krulls are, especially Stigron. Like, oh, well, yes, we've made these, powerful androids, but we can stop them if he does turn it on us and everything. And they go through all this trouble to make a new hostile android just to test the durability, and then that never comes back again, and the Doctor never does that. I don't know.
Except that he reprograms his own one.
I guess that's true. Yeah, all right. Well, there, I was proven wrong. So, there. We got ahead of the comments. You didn't have to prove me wrong. I've already been proved wrong. So, yeah, I guess that's true. Is the doctor? But he reprogrammed that really fast, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's see.
That's really a change too from Troughton. Didn't Troughton say he hated computers as the doctor?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And then we also had the fake Sarah. So this was another good opportunity. Again, kind of what I expected a bit more of this in the Zygon episode, just because they can change their appearance. But I like having fake Benton, fake Harry, and then also a fake Sarah and fake Doctor. Which the fake Sarah tried a bit more than the fake Doctor did. Like the fake Doctor almost immediately was like, "No, I'm a fake, and we're going to take you," Whereas the fake Sarah really tried to convince him. It's just that the Doctor was too clever.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm guessing Colonel Faraday was filling in for the missing Brigadier.
Yeah, I guess. I wonder if they got it down to whoever they were auditioning. They walk in, they see him with his mustache. They're like, all right, it's you. Because I was thinking that too. It's like, all right, so this is our sort of discount Brigadier, but he's got a mustache too, So at least maybe grow out the sideburns or something to make him look a little different. So
he didn't seem quite as savvy as the Brigadier. The Brigadier would have never fallen for a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And then we had everything with the virus and the plan and the original ultimatum that Crayford thought was taking the northern hemisphere, which, I get, that's the plan, or, that's the plan he thought. And it's like, well, but that's also just not fair and, even, because there's way more landmass in the northern hemisphere than the southern hemisphere.
Yeah.
So,
particularly usable landmass.
Yeah.
Because, South America, for example, not only do you have the massive Amazon rainforest where it would nearly be impossible to live, but the entire west coast of South America has the Andes Mountains, which are literally unlivable.
Yeah.
Central Africa, practically unlivable. So that would leave you, a small part of South America, a small part of South Africa. I guess the Indonesian islands there, the East Indies, as they used to be called, and Australia. So
yeah, that wouldn't give you much of South Asia, would it?
No.
Yeah.
I think, in fact, India is completely north of the equator, and I think the equator runs through the offshore islands. Again, they used to call them the East Indies. I'm not sure if there's a specific name for them now, but the Indonesia, Malaysian islands, and Papua New Guinea and places like that.
Yeah. So, I almost wonder, what would be a better sell? I mean, obviously this should never happen. The humans would never let this happen or anything. But I almost wonder if it was well, what if the aliens gave the ultimatum of, we'll take. Well, I guess the New World, the American continents, and we'll move all the people there out into, because that's at least for the humans that are there, that's the majority of the landmass, and then you still get a decent amount in the American continent. So I don't know why I'm bargaining for for something that it wouldn't happen, we would never let that happen. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but hey, who knows? Maybe someday that'll happen and there'll be a bargain. Again, it would still be better than that movie Home, which was just everybody being forcibly moved somewhere else, stupid, and it was terrible. That was a terrible movie. I don't care if it was a kid's movie.
I only vaguely remember it.
Well, I think the biggest problem was that all the humans were being forcibly moved, and the main alien was Jim Parsons. And nothing against Jim Parsons, but he was really annoying in that movie. And I'm just sitting here the whole time. It's like, okay, I want the other side of this story where Independence Day starts up, and you've got Bill Pullman, flying the jet. You got Jeff Goldblum on the computer. Will Smith goes and slaps somebody, I'm sure. He'll either punch someone or slap someone.
Welcome to Earth.
Yeah, so I feel like that has to be not to go way too off topic, but I feel like that has to be a meme somewhere of the Chris Rock slap of slapping him and saying "Welcome to Earth." So, it was a terrible thing that Will Smith did. The memes coming from that are so funny and so terrible.
And he just apologized again this past week. So
it's just one of those things. I remember when that happened. I remember Twitter was going crazy, and everyone was just saying, nobody would have remembered this in 5 minutes if you hadn't done anything. So, Anywho. I mean, yeah, pretty much. Other than that, I mean, there's the rocket. There's the fact that I really wish someone would have questioned him on the eye patch when he was, coming. Because you got video feed. It feels like something maybe Benton would say, It was like, oh, wait a minute. Now, why does he have an eye patch? I was like, oh, well, he got injured. It's like, well, did he take an eye patch with him? Who takes an eye patch into deep space? Like, if it was just like a bandage or something, like, that'd be more convincing. But yeah, it's like, where did he get this perfect, pirate-esque, eye patch that he's wearing?
Yeah.
I don't know. But oh well. But yeah, so that may be the last we see of Benton. Or it may not. I don't know. Just depends on who wants to bring the character back. So,
I certainly hope we see the Krulls again because they were interesting.
Yeah, I want to see the Krulls versus the Sontarans. So that should be an episode. Alrighty, next time we've got the Brain of Morbius.
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of this one, and I know like one thing that happens in this episode. But we'll get to that when we do. I assure you it has nothing to do with Jared Leto. So, there's at least that. This episode, started Morbin before it was cool, And as a reminder, it's not cool. Did you hear that a while back they re-released Morbius in theaters for like a day? Because everybody loved the Morbius memes.
Oh.
And so Sony was like, clearly people want to go see the movie again. So they re-released it for a day, and it bombed so bad. It was... And everyone, when it was announced that it was going back to theaters, people were like, okay, now nobody go see it to complete the meme. So, oh well. Anywho. So yeah, come back next week and we'll watch Morbius. Kind of. With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click around to any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.